So we're now going to move on to the segment on the grief journey. Just to actually, sorry, just before that, no, actually, I'll leave it. I'll share the thing I was going to share a little bit later. We'll move on to the grief journey. So, which is the worst grief? And I've got 12 here, numbered 1 to 12. I'll read those out. And in the comments, if you want to pop down which you feel is the worst grief, please do so. A parent who has lost a young child, a parent who has lost a middle-aged child, someone who has lost an elderly parent, a young child who has lost a parent, a newly married couple losing a spouse, a married couple with marriage of more than 50 years losing a spouse, a sibling losing a sibling, loss of both parents or children within a fortnight, so multiple losses in a short period of time, a loss due to illness such as cancer or some other long painful suffering in illness, or a loss due to a sudden heart attack, loss due to natural causes, or a loss due to an accident, an act of violence, or a natural disaster like an earthquake. Which of these is the worst grief? Okay, so we've got a few responses coming through. They're all equally worse. Grief is grief. They all sound horrendous. Newly married couple losing a spouse. Can't compare. All of them depending on circumstances. All griefs, no ranking. All grief. Fantastic. Thank you for that sharing. So, which grief is the worst? The worst grief is your grief, the one you're experiencing. Yours is the worst grief. You can't compare your grief to anyone else's, and no one else can compare their grief to anyone else's. The experience that you're having of your grief is the worst grief. All of those that I shared there, whoever is experiencing those, it's their worst grief. Someone who might be old and has passed away, you might think, okay, they've lived a long life, so it was time. No, it's not. Whoever has been connected to that person and has that love connection is going to feel that grief. So your grief is the worst grief. So do not compare your grief to anyone else's, and do not compare when other people are grieving. We just don't know what people are going through. We can only know what we are going through. So everyone's grief journey is different. Everyone is going to go through a different journey. They're going to experience those 5+1 stages in a different manner, different intensities for different time periods. Everyone is unique. Everyone's thoughts, beliefs, internal makeup, experiences at that point in time is all unique. It's all different. That time is unique to you. Everyone's grief journey is different. And this is a key thing to take away. Just because I've experienced grief of a friend passing away or my father passing away doesn't mean I can know what someone who's lost a child is experiencing. Their grief is going to be different from my grief. I can empathize to a certain extent, but I can't know fully what their grief journey is. So, and everyone's connection is different. So that's a key message. Everyone's grief journey is different. So when we are helping people through grief, we cannot give everyone the same standard answers and questions. We shouldn't be giving standard answers. We shouldn't be giving advice. We should be giving support. That's what we can do. And only advice if it's asked for. So coming back, to those 5 stages of 5+1 stages of grief. That is, what people will be going through. Some people will be going into depression very quickly. Some will be in anger for a long time. Some people may jump into acceptance and meaning a little bit quicker. it's just going to be different for everyone. When my friend Bobby passed away, it was denial. There wasn't anger, there wasn't bargaining as such. There was what if, and there was regret, and there was remorse, there was depression, and as I mentioned, that real sense of loss, and then over a period of time, a sense of acceptance and a sense of meaning being come through. When my father passed away 9 months ago, it was a slightly different experience for me. The denial, anger, and bargaining, I don't recall experiencing as such. Sadness was there, a sense of loss was there, but I think it was shifting into the realms of acceptance and meaning fairly quickly compared to what it may have been otherwise. And yeah, what it may have been otherwise. I'm going to just share something which is very personal, which I wasn't planning to share until I started thinking about it over the weekend. And it's entries from my happiness journal around the time when my father passed away. And the reason I'm sharing this is hopefully it'll give some insight into what was going on for me inside here and inside here, which was a different experience to what I had experienced before. So I'm going to just share that and give some context there. So the day he went into hospital in the morning, and I'll share some of the quotes which are in this, the positive quotes. So only when we are brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. And that's by Brené Brown, awesome speaker, writer, and so forth. And so in the grateful section, I've put, I'm grateful for the NHS service in the UK. I'm grateful for the paramedics and the ambulance services. And I'm grateful for my brother Anuj staying over and helping out. And I'm grateful for my sister-in-law Sejal helping during the day, which was, the day before as these things were happening. And then I'm putting what would make today great. So Dad being medically treated well and quickly recovering from the infection. Keeping a sound mind and balance is what I'm saying would make today great for myself. Keeping focused, positive, and productive. And for the affirmations I've put, I am empathetic, compassionate, and considerate. And I'm forward-thinking, open-minded, and grounded. So remember, this is in the morning before we know how the day is unfolding, and it's just where we're thinking, it's an infection, and in a few days it'll be back. Later, the entries in the evening later that day, after we've had the call and we've been told, he might not make it through the night, the work conditions worsened, and so forth, were, the three amazing things were good conversations with the paramedics and doctors for Dad. Dad actually being taken to the hospital, not being at home, so glad that the doctor pushed for this so that, the medical care was there, the treatments were there, the diagnosis could be done. And also requesting and setting up the WhatsApp comms for the family, and also being in that position to think, okay, he's gone into hospital, keeping that sound mind in place. What do I have on my plate? I've got the school pickups the next day. I've got meetings for Happy Life Habits on the Friday, and I've got a workshop on the Sunday. So, and I've got workers coming in to work on the house. So all of those things were things I had on, and with a proactive mindset there and a clarity in thinking, I was able to work through those things, cancel the meetings, communicate to the appropriate people, and take that worry, that anxiety, and those things off my plate so I could focus on the things which were important. Then on the day that he passed away, in the morning, it's, I'm grateful for good comms from the hospital. So they've been calling us, through the night, keeping us informed. I'm grateful for great family support. And I'm grateful for the services from the council, etc., the support services they have. And again, this is still in the morning before we know, had it, that, you know, he's on to the last stages. You know, Dad's condition improving and all of us keeping sane. My brother Raju and his family coming over from California and having a safe journey and arriving timely. So they just jumped on the flight that Thursday night when they heard that, you know, health had deteriorated. Affirmations like, I'm grounded, I'm clear-headed, and I'm communicative. I'm empathetic, organized, and I'm energetic. Then at the end of the day, and this is after, you know, Dad's passed away, it was, you know, was able to visit Dad in his last few hours of his life. We were able to do a video call and share with, you know, the family members who weren't able to be there physically present. So that technology being there, and the support of family, friends, community, you know, after Dad passed away. So those were the, I think that, and I'm going to just share one more, which is the day after. So I'm grateful for Raju, Sejal, Krina being here. So my family from the States have landed and we're together. I'm grateful for supportive messages, and I'm grateful for the lessons Dad has taught. What would make today great? Keeping good energy and focus, the prayers going well, making progress on funeral plans, being grounded and mindful. And affirmations, I'm congruent, balanced, and cool. I'm energetic, mindful, and responsive. So, and at the end of the day, what would make today, you know, what the amazing things. I had a lovely time in conversation with my son Miro, very late at night, till 1 o'clock in the morning, discussing these things. We had the wonderful prayers with the immediate family and sharings, and people shared, you know, their memories and messages of Dad and positive qualities. So we focused on that, and on the loss, we focused on what we did have, and the kids put together a great presentation. So with my experience on this one, it was a lot more in control of the thinking and the emotions. So some of those sadness and those depression and those bouts did come, but it was less intense than I'd experienced before, and it was for less frequency. And one of the things, as I mentioned, you know, that helped me was that journaling and my practices of daily practices of mindfulness, of gratitude, of practicing kindness, of going for walks and exercising. But the other thing also is, this happened in December. From June to December, in that 5-6 month period, you know, 4 training sessions of a whole month each, I've been engrossed in sharing and practicing and thinking about it. So my chemicals were strong, my pathways in the brain were strong. And so that disintegration that we experienced when we got the briefing trauma, I feel was less, and it was more closely integrated at that point. Still a little bit, you know, separate, but more closely integrated at that point. So again, it's, you know, bringing that message and remembering that, you know, not to judge other people's grief or your own, not to compare your grief with anyone else's, and not to measure grief. Your depth and frequency of grief will be different from everyone else's. And you might take months to recover, you might take weeks to recover, someone else might be quicker, it might be longer. It doesn't matter. We have said grief is everyone's own unique journey. So do not try to compare someone else's recovery or growth around grief with your own. It's not a fair comparison. So don't judge, don't compare, don't measure. Often as a human being, we're sometimes saying, you know, so-and-so passed away months ago, why are they still sad? Why are they still mourning? Why are they grieving? Why haven't they moved on? It's not a fair thing to say. And it's not a fair thing for yourself to think either. There is no closure to grief. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and it's the rest of your life. So grief does not end. David Kessler, he's shared one brilliant one where somebody asked him, my loved ones passed away. When should I stop feeling the grief? When do I stop feeling the grief? And it's this idea of the grief journey. And his message, and remember our connection to grief is that aspect of love. And he said, you know, you will keep feeling the grief while the person is still dead. So while that person is still dead, we will still feel that grief. There is no end to the grief. What we do is we grow around that grief. And that's what we'll move on to in a moment. So the key thing here is don't judge your grief, don't compare your grief, and don't compare other people's grief and judge. Everyone's grief, everyone has their grief journey. It's unique, it's different, but be aware there is a journey there. Again, I invite you to cross off 6 more items from your list. And those of you who are actively crossing off those items, is it becoming a bit more difficult now to choose 6 more items of that things which are important to you from your list? Yeah, so Vina has shared current trend of doing Zoom prayers and sharing happy moments helps one and all. Absolutely, and as I mentioned, on the day after my father passed away in the evening, we did a Zoom call because we couldn't meet each other. We were in lockdown. We had an immediate family from both sides, mum's side, dad's side. Through the WhatsApp groups, told everyone, we've got this happening this time. If you want to sing prayers, you can sing prayers, and we would love for you to share stories and share character traits. And we did that, and it was a very positive environment, and it really helped all of us where we couldn't all be physically get together, and it helped us remember the positive moments. And the following day, when we had the public prayers, similar, we had some prayers, and we invited people to share their memories, share the characters. And for some of us, we heard stories we hadn't heard before, and had it focused on that. It wasn't focused on what we've lost, it was a focus on what we had, and a reminder of those things. Okay, yep. So, okay, so there is a spectrum surrounding to be the same person and overcome from grief. You don't overcome grief, you grow around the grief, which we'll come on to in a moment.
My phone just showed me a memory of 3 years ago. Incredible. Is of the first precious friend who died shortly after the picture was taken. It was the last time I saw her. Wow, what a weird thing to happen.
Yeah, so yeah, I'll share that out because they would have heard you. So actually Ben just highlighted what Mary had shared. So my phone just showed me a memory from 3 years ago, and incredibly, it's of a precious friend who died shortly after the picture was taken. It was the last time I saw her. Wow, what a weird thing to happen. She taught me how to live in the moment. Beautiful. And I can't remember the quote completely, but there was one which I was sharing recently on the Facebook Happy Life Facebook group, which was, if the last thing you said to someone is the last thing they heard from you before they passed away, would you be happy in saying what you said? Or something to that effect. So it's that aspect that when we communicate with people, when we share with people, if we share it from that base of love and we share it from that base of, this might be the last thing that we're saying to them, the conversation and the tonality and the message is going to definitely be, can be very different to that. And if we are able to do that more often, there's less regret, remorse for us to experience. Good, okay.